Woo to you, Richard.
And woo to you, Meg. How
Thank
are
you.
you doing?
Well, the spirit in me recognizes the spirit in you.
And the same. And the same.
And I'm not teasing, but today we're talking a little bit about woo in coaching. And I think both of us have noticed, whether it's on posts, that there's a lot of skepticism about coaching, and the word woo or woo woo comes up quite a bit.
It does.
And I don't know about you, but I agree with some of that, right? Like, I do think
Okay.
that there is some woo in coaching. I'm not anti woo, by the way. And I don't know. I guess, what do you think?
I think at, on the surface, many people do think coaching is kind of woo. You coach a girls' soccer team and you are looking for tangible results, goal scoring, wins, and things like that, things that you can put a marker at. And sometimes with coaching, it doesn't always happen that way. And the results that we are helping people with and the results that people want aren't going to come overnight or aren't going to come necessarily within 2 or 3 hours. They may come days later, weeks later, even months later.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the woo, where if you are a client of a coach and you've been working on that person for 3 months or so, and then you come to a point where the light comes on. The coach that you worked with helped you put the pieces together to get to that point. And at the end of the day, it was really on you to, make those changes in your life that you wanted to make.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you can go to the doctor and the doctor can give you a meal plan that's going to help you feel better. But if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. I think,
Exactly.
I think that, well, I guess let's start with, what do we mean by woo? Because people probably have different versions of what they think that is, right? So what do you consider woo?
You know, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody,
Mhm.
but things like working with crystals, for example,
Yeah.
and things that aren't necessarily, again, tangible,
Hmm.
things that you can't put a pin on, and believing in things that you can't necessarily touch.
Hmm.
And sometimes people see things and feel things that unlocks doors.
Hmm.
And to them, maybe that is a definition of woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have done this in the evening and like taken a drink every time we say woo. Um,
Oh,
I think,
that would make this pod very interesting.
yeah, it would go down an interesting pathway.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think you nailed it with, sort of this idea. And I'm a fairly woo person in my personal life,
Mhm.
probably comparatively. And, I was raised Catholic, man. We love bells and
Mhm.
frankincense and flames and all kind, like, so
Candles.
I'm
Yeah.
all about it. Yeah, like, love
Yeah.
that stuff. Great pomp and circumstance there.
Yeah.
But that idea of, there's this non-tangible force or energy that this coach is going to help you channel into results, right? And that could be, through, like you said, crystals or something like that. It could be through, I think the big ones that we see are like manifestation and mindset. And
Yeah.
when you are focusing so much on manifestation and mindset, which, by the way, have a practice, in coaching, in consulting, in our just lives in general. But when there's so much focus on that and not on actually like helping people find tangible steps, I
Yeah.
think that to me is like a huge woo red flag. And the
Mhm.
other red flag that doesn't, I wouldn't call it woo necessarily, but this idea of, I did it and now I'm going to show you. And it's one of these things where it's like, well, that's not what coaching is.
No.
It's one thing to say, this is my experience, so that we might
Yes.
connect a little bit better. But my job as a coach is not to teach you, like, it's to possibly have a framework, but you have to do the steps and you have to fill it in, and we can figure that out together. But yeah, I think it's sort of this to me, it really feels like this coach is going to help you channel this unseen force in your life that if you could just access this, all your dreams are going to come true. And I haven't personally read it, so I don't, like you said, don't want to call cast aspersions on it, but I think of like The Secret,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh,
And the
definitely.
prosperity gospel, right? Like
Mhm.
these ideas that maybe are kind of rooted in spirituality or religion, but there's really nothing tangible about them.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like, Richard, too, that like if it doesn't work, it's your fault.
Right. Exactly. And that's one of the things that we don't do as coaches. We don't shame the people that we work with.
Right.
What we do is that's, if something's not working, that's a time for us as coaches to get curious about what's really happening,
Right.
what's going on under the surface. And that thing that might be, might be a raging river underneath the ground, that might be the source of the conflict and the source of the stuckness that the client might be feeling. And
Right.
that's where we need to go. And if we need to go on a whitewater rafting adventure on that river, that's what we do.
Right.
We have frameworks and we have structures, but we have enough flexibility in what we do and enough curiosity with what we do that we can work with where the client is
Yeah.
and help get them to where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's even difficult sometimes as a coach to talk about coaching simply because it is individualized, to your point. Like we're going to get in that white water rapid with you and go on that path. And I certainly have a structure and framework. We both have coaching certifications.
Yeah.
We know where our boundaries are
Mhm.
in terms of what we're capable of and not, or what's appropriate or not. But what works for one client may not work for another client, and that's because we're
Exactly.
individual people. The other piece of this too, I think, that's different, and we've talked about this with like therapy
Mhm.
versus coaching, is a data piece, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that also gets wrapped into all of this as well with like the woo thing, data and tangible results. And so I usually do a 10 to 12 week program with goal setting that aligns with values. And I also do consultancy, which I want to talk about in a second and what the
Mhm.
difference is. But one of the things that I do is we do sort of this intake session, the first session, and I want to see where people are coming from, what are their main pressure points, where are things going well. We talk about what they think their initial goals are. Usually those change a little bit, and then values. And part of that is the reason rather that I do that is I need to understand where people are, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people haven't even thought about these things altogether. The other reason I do this is so that at the end of the first session, you're not discouraged. You can walk away saying, I identified these values
Mhm.
and these are the
Mhm.
goals that I've identified and then we start moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think because we do live in a world where we want results quickly, right? And
Mhm.
and it is hard to say to someone sometimes, to your point, they may walk away from a session and be like, gosh, I didn't do anything. And the reality is the work is the point, right? Like
Yeah.
showing up to the session
Exactly.
is the point. You are
Exactly.
now a changed person
Mhm.
because of that. And you can take this forward and there might
Mhm.
be homework and things like that.
Yeah.
But again, I think sometimes even that feels like it's bordering on woo. And let's talk a little bit about the difference between coaching and consultancy. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
coaching to me and the way that I approach it is you have all the answers inside of you.
Yes.
And we're not here to tell you what to do. We're not really here even to give you advice. And
Mhm.
people are listening to this being like, well, then what the hell do you do?
Right.
Right. But
Right.
but I think in a very general sense, and maybe you can fill this in, you're a much better architect of words than I am, but really it's about us actively listening to you, identifying with you, like what
Mhm.
we're hearing, repeat it back, make sure that we're on the same page of what are the pressure points, what is our goal here, and start asking questions
Yeah.
that help us move forward in terms of how that path is going to be created.
Mhm.
But it's not me saying like, you know what, Richard, you don't need to write a book. What you need to do is become a
Mhm. Right.
meteorologist, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Exactly. Exactly. They want us to tell them what to do.
Right.
But that's, that's not what we do. We help guide people to where they want to be. And we help people see things from a different perspective and try to be a neutral observer and cheerleader at the same time for them. And it's really important. I think a really important point to also keep in mind is about accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And, can we do some of the things solo? Sure, but we might not be able to do them as well
Yes.
if we have somebody working alongside us.
Yes.
And that's what we do as coaches, is walk along the path.
But back to the consultancy idea.
Yeah, I was
you
just thinking,
you and a friend were talking about this recently, weren't you?
yeah, and the thing you brought up was, are consultants woo-woo? You're a consultant, or when you do your consultancy, are you woo-woo?
I don't think I am.
Okay. But
It depends on your definition of woo. I'm telling people in many, many ways, here's the dream and here's how to get it.
Yeah.
You're just saying it in different ways. Here's the mission, here's the vision, here's the goals, execute.
Right. And businesses bring in consultants all the time. All the time.
All the time.
All the time. And nobody bats an eyelash.
No.
Right?
Because it's very professional. We're very professional people.
Exactly. And businesses should know how to do things, but having outside perspectives is a key to running a great business.
Correct.
And for a person, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You want to do better at your finances, at your health. Having somebody to come in and help you along on what you want to achieve is a smart move. It's a smart play.
When McKinsey goes in, they're going into an organization that has a set mission, a set vision. They have a strategic plan that they're putting in place, or you're helping them do that. There are structures and systems in place. And with coaches, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes we are helping people get to that point. If I said to the average person, what's your mission and vision statement for your life? You think most people can answer it?
It's not.
Probably not. Or they think they can and then take a second and be like, people might see the work that we're doing that help with these systems, these structures, help people identify their mission and vision. You and I can talk in corporate speak all day. Does that really help with the relational aspect of individuals?
No.
I think the key difference, at least in my understanding of coaching and consultancy, is consultants, they say, hey, here, I took all the data. Here's what you need to do. Go execute it. With us, I mean, the reality is, if you came to me and said, Meghan, I want to write a book.
Yeah.
I could say, okay, hold on. And I could give you all the steps to writing a book.
Exactly.
But does it have any context whatsoever?
Exactly.
Zero. I have no idea. Richard, have you ever written a sentence? Well, you have, but have you ever written a sentence in your life? Like, do you have a concept for the book? Do you have time to write a book? Like, there's none of that.
And sometimes the most important question to ask someone is why? Why do you want to write a book?
Yes.
And what do you hope to get out of it?
Yeah.
Beyond financial gain.
Sure. And maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just I have a story to tell or whatever. One of the things that often gets missed in these platitudes that people talk in, whether they're coaches, consultants, whatever they are, gurus of some sort, is it's this broad swath that assumes everybody who's listening to this has the same situation. And you and I both know that, like, you can get 100 people that look like me, around the same age, around the same education, around the same financial, economic status. And from that group, we kind of look the same, right? You have 100 different people and 100 different experiences.
100 different situations.
Yeah.
And what might work for 5 people, that's not going to work for the other 95.
Right.
And the thing as coaches is, you have to bring our curiosity to the table when we talk with people. And even, if we have a system, we have a framework or method,
Right.
we can't force people into that method and then be angry with them or shame them if they don't follow it to the letter. We
Mhm.
have to be flexible enough and be able to improvise like a jazz musician and sort of listen to what the notes are saying
Yep.
and then adjust and play along with them. One size fits all approach to coaching just doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work at all because somebody might have a different home situation than someone else. Someone might have a different job situation.
Right.
And it's really up to us as coaches to be active listeners,
Yeah.
to hear what our client is saying and be present with them and guide them on their path rather than the path that we think is best for them.
What are some red flags to you if because let me actually preface this.
Okay.
Not every coach is going to work, right? Like you
Yeah.
may get to a point where you're like, you know what, I actually don't think this is working.
Mhm.
And that's okay. Like
And that's
not
fine.
everybody's for everybody
And
else.
that's
And
fine.
it's, why we do calls to make sure that we're in a good space and
Exactly.
checking in each session, like making sure that we're still on the same page and we're hearing people accurately and moving things forward in a positive way. But so I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, what are some red flags? Like, if you were either on someone's website or their social media or on an intake call, that maybe people should just be like, huh, that might be woo.
The first thing that jumps to mind is guaranteed results. I'm in a career transition coach. I can't promise people a job.
Sure.
The job market being as haywire as it is these days, I can't do that. And so that's a red flag to me that I'm going to guarantee you a job in 6 months or your money back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, that's a little dicey. I wouldn't do that. And I think there's another red flag that is where people say, follow my system and you will get results, for example. And I think I'm, you work with other coaches, I work with other coaches, and I'm very appreciative of the coaches who work with me.
Mm-hmm.
They work with my personality. They take time to understand who I am.
Yeah.
When they first started reaching out to me, they weren't trying to make a sale. They're
Yeah.
just trying to understand me. And, you know, that's the way that I want to coach. I want to understand you, where you are, what you want to do,
Mhm.
and how I can support you in being there. And, you know, I don't having a rigid system doesn't do the client any good
Right.
because if you're going to be that rigid, again, I'm going to talk about, if you're going to be that rigid and that person doesn't follow through, the issue of shame comes up. You didn't follow my system, shame on you. And I'm like, people have things going on in their
It's
lives.
context. It's
Yep,
context. Yeah.
exactly. And so you gotta be a good enough coach to understand that what that person might be thinking about coming to you for, like time management, that might be the thread of something bigger
Yeah.
and greater.
Yeah.
You got to be ready for that. And
Yeah.
it's that time management thing it's the tip of the iceberg.
Well, and I was going to say, I think in this particular case, I have a suspicion that time management is a symptom of the other things that they want to do that they haven't been able to do. But I don't know yet.
Exactly.
Frankly, I don't know yet. Like we had
Mhm.
one session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's foundations that you've got to build with them first before you can start talking about smart.
Right. And I
And
bet with you, in particular, and in particular in this market, I mean, it is a drag and a grind to look
Mhm.
for a job. It is hard.
Mhm. Totally hard and can be discouraging at times. And one of the things I work with people on is what story are they telling themselves as they are applying for these positions?
Yeah.
And what, and is that story true? And, you know, another thing is taking a look at the skills that they have
Hmm.
and trying to look at their skills from another perspective and maybe planting some seeds and dropping some ideas and going, I didn't know I could use X skill, X skill, Y skill in this particular
Right.
situation.
Right.
It's like, okay, I never thought of that. Or, okay, I didn't see that coming. And it's one of the things is easing their skepticism about coaching.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And really coaching is having conversations with people
Right.
and holding up a mirror to them.
And as a consultant, I just heard you talk about brand assets, marketing, SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
Like we're just
Mhm.
using different terms, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think like what you were just talking about in terms of a red flag of the guarantees,
Mhm.
the flip side is the vagueness, right? Like if there's a lot of vague, I would
Mhm.
be very skeptical. And a lack of, you may not want too much structure, but a complete lack of structure or even sort of
Yeah.
evidence-based structure. And there is evidence-based structure within the coaching world, which is why you want someone who isn't just like, I did this, so now I'm going to show you how to do it, right? Like,
Exactly.
and you want coaches that can turn to other coaches and say, like, hey, I'm working with this client and I'm kind of stuck. Like, can you
Mhm.
help me with this? But I think sort of that vagueness and lack of what the details are and
Mhm.
maybe a focus on mindset and manifestation over that. And which, like, what you were just talking about is mindset. And I talk about this too. Like,
Mhm.
think about the person who, let's say one of your goals is to climb Mount Everest. Don't recommend it. But like,
Right.
what do you feel like? What would that feel like? And
Such a great question.
that's important because
Mhm.
when you're tired on the stair climber with a 20 or 40-pound pack, dig
Yeah.
into that, right? But that's
Mhm.
not the only thing you have to do. Like there's steps that you have to
There are a
take.
lot of steps that you have to take, in order just to get to the base camp.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
seriously, do not recommend going to Mount Everest. I've watched a
Yeah.
lot of documentaries, but like
Yeah.
the thing, I think what I'm saying is that when it's all very vague, that becomes a challenge, right?
Yeah. You have to give people there has to be a North Star.
Sure.
There has to be a North Star, and there has to be a container for what you do as a coach and what the client is looking for. Just sort of having a structure to your sessions,
Hmm.
having a structure for the program. What does your client want to get out of the program?
Hmm.
And you coach to that.
I know I check in every time because we're human beings. I'm like, hey, how's it going? How was your week? Like, tell me
Mhm.
what's up. What headspace are you in? But I'm
Mhm.
also not asking, what do you want to work on today? You know what I mean? I'm totally open if they're like, this is what I did last week.
Mhm.
Can we focus on this or can we make an adjustment here? Because I do believe this is a co-created process,
Yeah.
but I'm not just like, cool, what do you want to work on this week? Right? Like there
Okay.
is structure
Mhm.
to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other thing too that I see a lot of that bothers me, and I think it's just like capitalism in general, but like fear-based marketing, right?
Oh
Like,
God. Oh, I hate that. I
yeah,
hate that. Yeah.
yeah, I think that is just preying on
Mhm.
people.
It
And I don't know how many times you and I have said it, like nothing's wrong with you. Like it's
right. Absolutely nothing's wrong with you. And, I get the emails from various people about, you're doing X thing wrong, or you're doing Y thing wrong. You
right.
should be doing this, you should be doing that. And it's like, that's not the way that I want to
Yeah.
work with people and
Yeah.
approach people and coach people. Like you said, there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Richard, are you going to let the new year go by without resolutions? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, oh my
Oh
God, the world's going
God.
to explode. Like, And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we don't even recognize it, right? Because it
Yep.
is preying on
Mhm.
something inside of us, like we're behind, like we're not
Mhm.
enough. And I think that that fear-based marketing can be
Yeah.
sometimes very obvious, but sometimes not.
Sometimes not. Yeah, because it's sort of it's got this creeping way about it.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but I want people to understand, that they're fully formed, fully vested human beings.
Mhm.
All right. With even with all the stuff that's going on around them,
Mhm.
that part doesn't change.
Right.
I'm a big believer in individual agency.
Yeah.
You have the power and ability to guide your life in the way that you want to guide it,
Right.
as long as you're not harming anybody else.
Correct. Yep.
And so some of these, this fear-based marketing, it doesn't resonate with me. It has the opposite effect. It actually angers me a little bit,
Yeah.
and it doesn't do anything for me. And I've always wanted to speak to people's higher selves, in a world that's bringing a lot of noise. I'm trying to bring some signal
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to things that are happening.
Ah, Richard, you're so good with words. I love that. Bring the signal. That's really great. That's really great. There is actually something that you put in the notes that I want to read though, because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you said cynicism is easy because it doesn't ask anything of you. Hope is harder because it asks you to be responsible for what you see. And I just think that is absolutely beautiful. And we've talked a lot about the cynicism, right, of
Mhm.
coaching
Yeah.
and some of the ways that we see how people can maybe flip that script and what they should be looking for. Is there anything else about the woo or in coaching that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure listeners hear?
I mean, I just want to speak on that those lines is we coaches believe in hope.
Yes.
If we didn't, we wouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
And, you know, we want to see people as their best selves. And we believe that people can show up better in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we do the work that we do. And woo or not, we're here to support people's journeys.
Right.
And rather than not looking at coaching as being woo is the thing, but it's maybe a question of bravery.
Mm-hmm.
Am I brave enough to see myself as I am and want to become just a little bit better? Not 100% better, maybe, but maybe 5% better or
Mm-hmm.
10% better. And maybe that 5 or 10% better can be all the difference for you.
Yeah.
And as coaches, that's why we're here in what we do, because we want to support you on that journey.
Right. And I think two things with that. One, if you have a calling inside of you, even if it's 5 or 10% better, that's great and pursue that. If
Yeah.
you're chilling and you're good, awesome.
Yeah.
We don't always have to perfect ourselves or have goals or
Mhm.
what, like that's fine. We're talking to the people who there's an inner drive and there's something that they want to do and they want that coaching, right? And I
Mhm.
think the other piece too is like we do believe in hope and we are optimists. And that is a really tough thing in this world. And to be
Yes.
an optimist and to have hope, people are going to attack that and they're not your people, right? So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I think that it's really really easy to find excuses. It's really really easy to tear people down, and when it comes to woo creators or whatever, like I don't spend my time and energy trying to tear them down. I move on. Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You
it
know,
is what it is.
yeah. Being a journalist, I try not to traffic in cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a thing. Cynicism doesn't really help matters.
Mm-hmm.
Hope is hard, and you got to be here for it.
Yeah. And I think that that is a perfect place to end. I say woo to you, Richard.
And I say woo to you, Meg.
Oh, the only other thing that I would say is,
Yeah.
if you want to incorporate some of these woo things, like you were talking about, like crystals or whatever, totally go for it.
Go for it. Go for it.
If
If that's your thing, do it.
But if you're getting a lot of vague promises or absolute guarantees, or there is no structure, or I'm going to be your bestie through this process, be careful, right? Be careful.
And don't be afraid to ask questions of that coach.
Yeah, like you're paying us.
Yeah,
Ask,
exactly.
yeah,
That's
like
what we're here for.
yeah. And it has to be it has to be a right fit.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a goal-oriented coach who also does Sanskrit meditations, I'm not the girly for you. Like, it's like,
And
that's
I'm not the
not
guy.
it.
I'm not the guy for that.
Yeah, but you know what? Tell me, because I'm curious who is. Like, that's. But yeah, if you want to incorporate woo in, definitely, but don't let woo be the entire practice, because
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's going to get you maybe a different result than what you're looking for.
Indeed.
Richard, this has been a fun conversation. Thank you for thinking of it. And
Yeah.
like I
I
said,
enjoyed the conversation. It was great.
yeah. So woo to you.
And woo to you.
I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.